We back? We're rolling.
All right, we're back.
Oh, okay.
So you asked me during the break,
Yes.
you said thank you again for this amazing snowboarding.
It's freaking awesome.
The little shredder. Little shred nar.
Little shred nar?
Yeah. You said you needed
Mr.
a name.
Narnar?
Mr. Narnar?
No, what's the name?
I don't know yet. I haven't gotten there.
Well, I just gave you an excellent suggestion.
I mean, you can name it. It's yours. Gift. Whatever you feel like. Anyway.
This is the wrong way to pour a beer.
It was.
I mean,
that was pretty terrible. So,
apple.
You asked me.
Chocolate milk.
You asked me where I got this gift, and the funny thing is I don't actually know.
You don't actually know?
No, I re-gifted you this.
So, that makes it all better.
But I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you the story if you want to hear the story. So
I do.
So I had this this package showed up at my house.
Okay.
And it was like right before Christmas.
Was it mislabeled?
No, definitely. And so I had given my little brother a pair of old snowboard boots, and he said he would. He was like, "Oh, I'll get you something. I'll get you something." And like 2 weeks later, this showed up, and I was like, "Well, you cheap bastard."
It's probably actually worth some money.
I gave him a really nice set of Nike snowboard boots. If you know anything about Nike snowboard boots, they're like
overpriced.
They're like sought after now. They're like classics. People are like
they don't make them anymore.
Correct. So people like the Air Force. I think they're called like Air-1s. Anyway.
Okay.
I got new snowboard boots because those were a little too small, and so I thought my little brother sent me this. It was very timely. Like it was like 2 or 3 weeks after this trade that we made, and this thing shows up in the mail. And again, I was like, well, that's what you're gonna get me, huh? Is this little shredder narnar? And so whatever. I didn't really say anything about it. And time goes by, and then my little brother comes over to snowboard, and he actually shows up with a really nice snowboard waxing setup. So like a heated iron designed for snowboard waxing,
I have one of those.
wax,
They're
scraper,
awesome.
like a really good, like a really nice thing. And so I started laughing. He's like, "What are you laughing for?" I was like, "Oh, you got me 2 gifts." And he's like,
"I'm gonna drink out of the moose head."
He was like,
Sorry.
You've been just waiting for that. You got to turn it this way so we can.
Oh yeah,
we can
you
see.
don't want a moose tail.
And so I got this out, and I was like, "Oh, I thought this is what you sent me." So and he starts laughing. He goes, "No, bro, I've never seen that before. I don't know what that is." So I don't actually know where it came from. So I've had it in my house forever.
Oh, I get it. He's just messing with you. Of course he sent it to you.
I don't think he did.
Can he like poker face?
Yeah, but he would have told me. He would have.
Yeah, you would have think. You would have thunk.
So I've had this. I almost donated it. I was going to drop it off at the Goodwill a while back.
You are donating it. You're
that's right. So it's funny thing is, I thought that it was. I went to give it away.
Ooh, flip it around.
Flip him.
Can we change the color?
We could change the color. Where are we going with?
We're going with
blue.
Blue.
What if there's like a hot pink in there or something?
Hello, darkness.
Purple.
We are purple.
All right. So I almost gave this away. I almost took it to the Goodwill, as I mentioned, and was going to give it away. And then I just got this intuitional feeling where I was like, I got to hang on to this. I don't know why, but I got to hang on to this. And today, before I came over here to the...
What do we call it?
Shred Shack?
Well, I think it evolved into that.
The
Shake Shack. No, that is a restaurant.
Shake Shack makes good burger.
They do make good burger. Okay, Montana burger. Okay, anyways. Yeah, I don't know.
We can talk about burgers.
We can talk about burgers.
Next episode, food episode. So anyway, I didn't know why I needed to keep it, and then today when I was like, man, if you're going to be a guest on the podcast, I can't bring you a cookbook. I was going to bring you a nice bottle of whiskey because I do like a good whiskey, but it's Sunday and so it's hard to buy.
Palm Sunday.
I could have gone to local.
Whiskey.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I immediately clicked to me as I was taking a shower. I showered before I came over here. Aren't you happy?
Thank God.
Yeah.
He gets a little stank.
I do. And so I was like, oh man, do I still have the little like shredder dude? And lo and behold, he was still sitting in the closet just waiting for you.
So he came out of the closet to be with me.
Correct.
And that is what I appreciate.
This is an all-inclusive podcast.
All-inclusive.
Yeah.
All colors, shapes, and sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else you got? I mean, you got lots of stuff scribbled on that pad of paper.
Some of them get a little dark.
Good, let's go dark. Sun's up.
So, Montana.
Yes.
Do you don't think it's the end of the world? Or what do we feel? Every generation, I feel like it's...
Wait, are you asking me if you think it's the end of the world in general?
No, I'm asking you... So let's do a scenario. Scenario? Tomatoes. Say there's a collapse of society, whether it be AI taking over, whatever, who gives a shit? Alejandro likes AI.
I think AI is going to be great. It's also
going to suck.
Whatever. That's a whole other conversation.
Okay.
So what's the question?
So, World War III, Civil War. What's your strategy to survive? I like hearing people's
I'm
point
gonna
of view.
move in this shack.
This is not bomb proof. This is not.
I think we'll be okay
It's insulated
here.
pretty
You know,
well.
the only challenge is living where we are is that we do have more, like you said, we have more nuclear bomb sites in Montana than we do in any
we're
other
a
state.
target.
Yeah, but I don't. A lot of those I think are I don't. They're buried, I believe, underground.
Yeah.
They're basically impenetrable.
Well, nothing is impenetrable per se. But
Well, you couldn't take them all out.
a lot of security.
You couldn't take them all out fast enough to like get them
Right.
all. I think that's one of the challenges.
And I don't know. I have a thing where we have tested many nuclear devices, and that's why you see cancer rates as high as they are. But not everybody's dying. You know what I mean? We tested them in the ocean. We tested them on the ground. We tested them in the air over the last 70 years or so, and people are still here. So like I feel kind of positive about it. I don't know. I'm not that kind of scientist. I'm not even really a scientist.
What are we gonna do if we already cleared this up? Not a doctor. Not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
Not a doctor. If
fire's hot.
I don't think that if the world does kind of quote unquote come to an end, I don't think it's gonna be like we show it in the movies.
No,
I don't think it's gonna be an apocalyptic
it's gonna be a slow burn.
Correct, and I think we're already seeing that.
Yeah. I mean,
And
let's talk about ancient Greece for a second here.
oh yeah.
Was it ancient Rome or ancient Greece? One of the two. The collapse of both. They, I think, any big, technically advanced civilization
Has a peak.
they had a peak, and during the fall, they start obsessing about gender. And
That's right. I've heard this.
you've heard this
Yeah.
concept? You've been listening to Rogan?
I've heard of him.
We're not allowed to talk about him on this podcast. We're a separate entity altogether.
What do you mean? Maybe you can get Rogan to come on.
Yeah, he likes
Seems like-
Montana.
seems
a
like
lot
a
of
good
these
guy.
celebrities like Montana, and
He
that's
also
part of
really
the problem.
he likes Texas as well.
Yeah, well, he's in
Really cool.
Austin.
That's right.
Comedy Mothership. I want to go see
I'll
it.
be there in a couple months. I want
You're
to
gonna
check
go?
it out. Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
Why not?
But
Good comedies, man.
I
It
love
is.
a comedy.
I got to see Chappelle and Aziz Ansari once.
Okay, Aziz
live.
is kind of falling off the
Aziz-
bandwagon.
That show, Aziz was should have been the headliner. I think Chappelle was
Yeah.
in like kind of a dark space at that time,
Was he okay?
and it was just after last time he was in Austin. I think he got heckled really like bad from the audience, and so he came
Did
back
he
with
pull
like a
a Will
chip.
Smith?
No, he didn't smack
Oh,
anybody.
he didn't smack anybody.
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to see that. That should have happened.
I
Should
watched
not
that
have
live, and it was like
happened.
it was so. It was it was one of the greatest moments of live TV ever. But it was.
I think it was
Chris Rock
kinda
handled
showing
it. Chris Rock handled
okay.
it like a G.
No, yeah, he is the better man in that. Obviously.
Yeah. Now, if he would have closed, if he would have actually decked him, that would have been a slightly different situation. Plus, I feel like Will Smith's probably
He's a tall dude.
and he's a fairly big dude.
Built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're not, it's almost like if you're not ready for that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You
want a
know.
beer? I mean, beer?
I think we can drink on this. That's okay, right?
Yeah. I think so.
What kind of beer you got in here?
Variety.
Variety pack. You used to be in the beer business, didn't you?
Yes,
Actually,
I
no,
worked in
that's
beer
true.
sales. I know beer.
So now you went from working in the beer world to
Yeah.
working for the government. How does that feel? How do you?
I don't work for the government. I work for the local farmers.
Aren't
And
you employed by a?
I am employed
Government.
by the legislative branch of Montana. But that doesn't define me, okay?
No, I guess my question was more about like going from
Here, let's
Going
get some
from like
Montana
a-
vibes. Montana vibes?
going from a high, going from like a slightly more high pressure sales gig to working for a government entity.
So
Seems like
it's
it would
still
be.
high pressure. We have to produce. We have to.
Yeah, but can you actually get fired? Can you even get fired? from a
I
government
can get
agency?
fired. I've come close. I say things that people don't always agree with, and I don't give a shit if you do agree with what we're talking about or not. I feel like we need to talk. People need to talk more and not necessarily drink a lot, but we're gonna do that anyways. We're free Americans still.
Because I think that's isn't that one of kind of the problems with like bureaucracy in itself, that if you like get tenured or something like that, if you go back and you start looking at it, it's almost impossible to fire. Like, look, we need more teachers, and we talked about this a little bit earlier.
We did talk about that, yeah.
If you are a tenured teacher and you're the worst teacher that ever existed.
You should be fired.
But it's almost impossible to let those people go.
Yeah, my situation is a little bit different than that. We do have a PhD lead who, she does work hard and she does promote like those strong values of working hard and, you know, kind of, she doesn't want to push the envelope, but I kind of want to. When I do research, I want to like try something new that no one's ever done.
Yeah.
I want to see
sense.
what will happen, especially we're doing a lot of studies on trying to save farmers money because of the, you know, fertilizer problem going on. Costs were insane last year, so we're doing studies to help mitigate the costs for farmers so they don't have to put as much input in and you still get a quality output. So
let me ask you a question about this, since you're more educated in this space than I am. So one of the things that you know, we've gone to this like homogenized food system. So we only grow like whatever, a couple of different types of corn as an example, and we don't
not necessarily.
Okay, so let me finish my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so when we think about farming and we think about agriculture, right? Obviously, it's important for feeding the billions of mouths that we have, right?
Yes.
I like the idea of backyard farms, and I just don't think it's reasonable for everyone to be like, oh, I'm going to grow my own turnips or whatever, and actually survive off of that. People don't have enough time. Like a single mother of 3 can't grow her own food. That's not possible. So
if she doesn't work, it is possible, but it is a full-time job.
Yeah. So when we talk about, you know, there's a lot of people that talk about the fear of this like homogenized
are you talking like monocrop agriculture?
Yes. And so if you get a disease like the panny,
like a plant disease,
you get bird flu for corn, and it attacks like the one type of corn that we happen to grow in like 80% of this country. There's a challenge. Right?
I feel like, you know, coming
is that
from outside,
is that a misconception?
Yes and no. I feel like I can't say I feel because that doesn't help our situation, but there is more variety of things. Like I feel like the statistics on this are not 100% true.
Okay.
There's a lot more variety. You know, that's what we're working on. We're working on breeding programs where you get the most efficient variety for disease resistance. So disease like GMO, we'll talk about that if we want.
Sure.
GMO is not as scary as people make it out to be. GMO can technically be defined as a breeding program. You're just breeding things together to make it something new. So it's not necessarily a scary concept, and people kind of, you know, get afraid with that word when technically they're genetically modified. That's like a thing.
I mean, but is there not a difference between like genetically modifying something? So if you're talking about yields, right? So a farmer's going to make money based on the amount of bushels that they sell, right? So or weight.
It's a quality. It's quality yield tons per acre.
Correct. So if you're running a commercial farm as an example, and you're beholden to your stockholders, and your goal then as a farmer is to create the highest yield possible.
Yeah, you want to make a profit.
Yeah. But if that's your monetary, you know, that's the right way to say it. Well, so if you're, and a lot of farmers aren't wealthy human beings, right? They're living not month to month, but crop to crop, right? They're not sitting on stockpiles of cash, most of them.
Some are,
but if you're,
some are really wealthy.
Yeah, of course they are, but there's wealthy people in every industry.
Sure.
But if you're you know, monetarily incentivized, if you're monetarily incentivized to grow the most weight per acre that you can, then you know, isn't that kind of like the problem with healthcare? Same idea, right? Where it's like you're not being compensated to grow the best food you can. You're being compensated to grow the most food you can. It's same with a doctor.
I agree.
You're not getting incentivized to actually make people better. You're incentivizing to crank out as much care as you possibly can. And so doesn't that, you know, if you're talking about,
if it's just purely capitalism, then yes, I would agree with your statement 100%. Like if that's, but you're starting to see a diversity in the farming community where it's more small farms popping up, and a lot of these farms, commercially or not, are tested for quality, like digestive quality for animals, digestive quality for humans. Um,
I don't know.
not just digestive quality for, you are tested for quality. That's a big thing. Because every study we do, we send to a lab to test for those qualities, and we do multiple different labs. We do one in Nebraska. It's a big name.
Are you guys? Can we talk about glyphosate?
Yeah, so that's something we don't.
So for
really
people
use
listening,
anymore.
for people that are listening that don't know what glyphosate is, glyphosate is basically Roundup. Roundup's a chemical.
Right.
That it's it's a weed killing chemical. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but a lot of, and this is where I think a lot of for a long time,
it's cancer causing technically.
For a long time, something like 70 or 80% of the corn, the crops in this country, the seed stock for those crops was being produced by Monsanto, and Monsanto had genetically modified the crops so that they weren't affected by glyphosate. So then farmers,
it's called Roundup Ready varieties.
Yes. So then farmers could very simply go out in the field. They don't have to worry about necessarily weed or bugs because they can just hose their fields down with these chemicals. The problem is that these chemicals then get into the food source, and then when we eat them, then we are ingesting very, very small doses of glyphosate. And if you do that for years and years and years, that builds up in your system, and all of a sudden you're poisoning yourself.
Yes. So I go back and forth on this a lot. Glyphosate's not 100%. We don't use it a lot now. We use.
And when you say we, what are you referring to?
Most farmers don't use that because it doesn't work anymore.
Is it because the weeds have become?
They become resistant, and it's a huge problem. So the
weeds or the glyphosate.
Both are huge problems. It's not just glyphosate. I would brought it. So I'm like pesticide certified, so I use these products.
Okay.
And we do integrated pest management, meaning we try to use the minimal amount and target specific pests that will cause economic threshold problems, meaning that pest, there's too many of them, they're going to eat all the crops.
Yeah.
So we're not going to spray anything unless we reach that threshold. So most of the time, we're not going to spray anything.
Do you know like the percentages of?
Yeah, so each pest we have like a threshold percentage, and then we do monitoring. I'm actually part of a program where we monitor the orange midge blossom wheat. It's orange wheat midge blossom, or I'm saying this wrong. It's called midge. We'll say it midge.
Okay.
So midge monitoring is what we do each year.
And what is midge?
Midge is a tiny little bug, and it eats wheat.
Got it.
So it'll burrow in. I think it lays its eggs and that larva eats it, but I could be wrong. Have been drinking out of the moose head, so you know where we're at in the podcast.
That's fair.
But
so you look at
monitor it.
You monitor. So if you have a field or a crop or a section of a state that's being just overrun by midge,
right,
then you will hose that if you have to.
But not with glyphosate. We try to do. It would be an insecticide. So there's different levels of insecticide, there's different categories, and you try to use one that will not harm the plant but get rid of the pest. Obviously, that's kind of like the point.
Does it ever work its way out? So if you hose a field down with insecticide,
so we have these things called retention intervals where nobody's allowed to go in the field for like 12 hours, some of them 24 hours, some of them are 48 hours. So nobody's allowed in the field. And it will dissipate. Rain will dissipate it.
But does it stay in the food is my question.
No.
Are you testing that?
That would be in our quality test. So here's the disconnect that I have a problem with, because I don't know for sure, because I'm not testing it myself. I'm sending it to a lab, and they're testing it. So I don't necessarily know the full process once it's sent to a lab. I hope they're testing for that, and that's all I can say, because I don't
do you get the reports back?
We get the reports back, and it's pretty it shows everything we would need to know for the farmers to make a educated decision. But at the same time, it's not fully, it's like we're doing our thing, they're doing their thing. So I don't know what their motivation is, right? So
the farmers?
No, not the farmers, the lab.
Oh, got it.
So I don't know I know the farmer's motivation is to produce, make money. Mm-hmm. But also they care about the land too. It's one thing that's not really talked about. Farmers really do care about their land.
Of course they do. But I'm talking about.
And that goes into food quality is what
okay, I'm but that's what I'm talking about. Is there's a disconnect, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a disconnect between you caring about the land and caring about your yield versus caring about what is actually being put into the tortilla chip that your corn is turned into.
Yeah, exactly. And corn is a very resistant crop, but that doesn't really help. I mean, corn, there's a ton of varieties of corn. There's probably most amount of varieties of corn. So it's like you will have corn that is produced for a certain, like corn for popcorn, corn for tortillas, corn for this.
I make a great homemade popcorn, by the way.
Good. Put it in the cookbook, man.
It is, don't worry.
Okay. But yeah, so it's like
Big Rick's.
I don't have the answers
Popcorn.
to that, and I wish I did, because that's actually a big concern of mine. Because I feel like the quality in the grocery stores, like I feel like it's part of its half of it's poison at least. It's like not.
So I switched recently. I say switch, but I'm a foodie. I like to eat, but I also I believe that our bodies are a system, and so what you put in is what you get out. And so I switched. I turned the food pyramid upside down, if you will, recently. Like the traditional.
More meat, man.
Well, just to say more protein, more fat, right?
Have you ever had lamb? Lamb.
Not a big fan of lamb.
Lamb. When you have a good cut of lamb, it's so good.
But it's cutting down my carbohydrate intake. And so what I've realized is that
carbs.
Correct. But is when I eat a low quality piece of whether it's pasta or cheap bread or whatever the case might be, I feel terrible. Now I can also make a very good shrimp scampi recipe that obviously has shrimp scampi as a pasta.
Have you ever been to like Italy?
No, I have not yet.
I feel like it's a different. So there's a lot of EU pesticides that we use. They don't.
Yep.
So there's a whole science I want to get into and like figure this out because I feel the same way.
So where I was going to go with that is like I'll eat if I go to if I buy good quality pasta at the store and make whatever it is I'm making for dinner.
Yeah, our producer's asleep, by the way.
He's getting there.
Yeah.
I will feel.
He's so tired.
I will feel. He looks like he's okay.
All right. Sorry.
I can have the same dish. Okay.
Yeah.
Whether it's a sandwich or a pasta dish, and if it's made with cheap ingredients, I literally will get stomach cramps. I'll have to use the bathroom very shortly afterwards. I get my body almost rejects it. Yeah. I can then go to the local bakery here in town and get a loaf of their sourdough bread that's made from ancient grains, using a traditional sourdough rise, and I can eat half that loaf of bread for dinner and feel fine.
Sourdough is actually
that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But my point is that the quality that's in these different foods based on the input of the ingredients.
I think where you're getting at is like it's definitely profit driven and not quality driven.
Yeah.
And I think yes and no. It depends on the farmer. And in order to solve that problem, I feel like a farmer needs to kind of get back to where, regenerative agriculture is what I like to like focus on. And a lot of farmers are starting to move that direction. And it's not just like regenerative beef, regenerative, kind of using those ancient grains. Some of them are going back to that. But not enough, and it's hard to find that. It's hard to get quality. It's hard to, especially since Montana is the #1 exporter of wheat. Like, we export it across the world. We're not saving that wheat for us. Even if it's quality, we're not saving it for us. We're getting some
That's economics, though.
What?
It's economics.
Yeah. I mean, this year we did a big meeting, and we're getting other companies like Australia, other countries, rather, are taking over our market because our wheat is too expensive. So our farmers may be hurting at the end of this year because we can't sell it. They're going to India, they're going to Russia. Russia's selling a ton of wheat, and we can't compete with those numbers because they sell at a lower price and we can't export it. So it's like it's going to hurt Montana farmers. It's going to hurt our global economy, and who knows where that's going to lead. But I don't know, man.
I mean, I think that there's a shifting of the tides, though, a little bit of. I mean, I know a lot of people that go out of their way. They'll pay more money, right? And these aren't like crazy wealthy people, right? These are just people that have
upper middle class.
Sure. But they will go out of their way. I know 2 different people I've met in town recently in the last 6 months that haven't been eating eggs because they won't buy eggs from the grocery store because they're from commercial farms. They're fed with GMO corn, all of this type of stuff.
Don't be afraid of the word GMO though.
I know. I'm just giving you some. I'm not telling you my.
Nobody knows what it means, man.
I'm not telling you my beliefs. I'm just telling you what I've seen. And so they will. These 2 different people were vegans, but they're both of them were like, "Hey, I need more protein in my diet," and so they both started eating eggs recently.
You need to not be vegan.
Well, that's a different conversation. But the point is that they will seek out local eggs that have been pasture raised, so on and so forth. And the point is, Dan, is that those 2 individuals they're willing to spend extra money to buy those eggs. So
Better
I wonder
have them start having chickens.
Well, but you're talking about your grain, right? So if you're saying if Montana's really growing a better product, so we have this idea of commodities, right? Okay. And commodities is where a lot of these products are sold, these crops, right? Yeah. Corn, wheat, soybeans, they're sold at a commodity price. Right. And so the value or the quality is not taken into consideration. It doesn't matter if you have a crap quality soybean that's grown in China with a bunch of chemicals on it.
Yeah, that's
or if it's local, if you put the organic label on it, that's different. But if you have like a local grown wheat that is costing more because the farmer's doing a better job of creating a higher quality product, it's still set at that commodity price.
But what we're missing is they are tested for quality, and it doesn't matter right now.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Is people, if I could go to the store and there's 2 bags of flour, right? If there's 2 bags of flour and there's one that said on it, hey, this is cheap flour from Russia and this is locally sourced flour from Montana.
And if people are being economical, they're going to buy the cheaper one.
Of course, and some people don't have that choice. But if I can spend an extra $3 or $4 on a bag of flour that's made locally, that has better grains in it, has better nutritional value, I'm going to buy that personally.
Personally, yeah.
But
that is a privilege.
But I don't have. Yes, you're correct. Right. But even more important, I think to the point of what I'm trying to make is, I don't even have the choice to do that.
Yeah.
I can't go to the grocery store here and look and be like, oh, hey, this is from the farmers down the road. Now I can get it at the farmer's market.
You're limited information. You don't know if that's quality.
Correct.
You don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, that in itself is to your point of, that's a challenge of, there's farmers that are.
You gotta question everything, man.
Well.
That's the thing. We're trying to figure out.
Questioning it's one thing, but finding.
Well, we need answers.
Having access to it is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, say we get censored on the show, and we come up with a great answer to a problem. Nobody has access to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another problem.
That's the thing, is the accessibility.
Accessibility to information that is correct. That's a problem. What is correct may be censored 6 months ago, and now it's true. And you're like, oh, that was true the whole time? It would be nice to know that 6 months ago or 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's a different. You're talking about censorship. I'm just talking about.
But access to information and quality of food and.
Correct.
You want to be healthy, and it's hard to know what is healthy these days. Kind of. Yeah. No.
I don't know. I think that I guess I'm talking about something different, and I'm talking about.
Access to quality food? Or?
Yes, access to, I didn't know, for what you just said, I didn't know that Montana grows, let's say, a superior product.
It is very superior, yeah. Okay. Based on my data that I have seen and collected.
Yep, and you're a pseudoscientist because you're not an actual scientist.
I don't have a PhD. I don't. I work for someone who does.
So, but I don't have the ability. My point is, I can't go to the local grocery store and buy Dan's wheat, right? This higher quality wheat that you're buying. I'm not given the information. I'm not giving access. I'm not given access or information to that product.
Right.
And so that is where I'm talking about of whether or not you have the financial means to purchase those things.
Yeah.
But the fact that the information and the access isn't there is if you talk about things that hey, how do we change this? I don't know that, because I would I would be willing to pay more for locally grown Montana wheat that's in my pasta or in my bread or in my whatever.
Yeah, and there's a logo
if
you
I
can look for.
If I can,
it says Montana grown. And it is a thing. It's harder to find, but it is a thing. But also, farmers market is, you got to make those connections. We got to make those connections locally. We got to go next farm market. We don't have a farm market until what, June, May? I think it's
there's a
May.
there's a farmer stand here, they call it. It's a little store that you can buy that stuff year round there.
Cool. Yeah. Then talk to them. See how their practices. You gotta do your own research though now. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's there, but it's like you have to do your own research.
You do. That's
And
true.
that's nobody has time for that. You know.
You can make time.
You can make time if you really care, and it is your health. It is your food you're ingesting every day. I feel like make time. Do a little hour or two of research. You know,
All right. What
instead of watching CNN.
Fucking propaganda channel.
The Communist News Network. You heard it here. Probably.
Communist News Network. It's not too far off.
It's not too far off.
What else you got on your? Do you want to talk about false information and all that? We want to go down that road, or what
No,
other
I just want to
questions
know
you
if you prefer hunting or fishing, because we are a Montana-based show and we focus on what matters. Hunting or fishing? What do you prefer?
Most recently,
Yeah.
I've been much more into fishing, but
You want to try hunting this year?
I
Do you
know how
want
to
to take
hunt.
a class?
I know how to hunt. I've got my hunter safety card.
Want to teach a fisherman? I.e. me?
I
only fish. Sorry, everybody. I only fish. So yeah,
Mountain Man Dan. There's
there's a ton of mountain streams with trout in them, and I can
okay.
catch the shit out of them.
I've been getting more into ocean fishing recently.
Oh, we're going down to Mexico. Should we do a little whoop?
We did talk about that.
Yeah. We'll talk later.
So the only thing about hunting, I just haven't been as into it as an adult.
Well, if you want to mitigate, I talked to.
I like bird
Koss.
hunting. Bird hunting is my favorite, probably.
I hear grouse is really good.
Grouse hunting is a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, grouse is pretty
You
good.
can bring a dog with that one, right?
It depends where you are, I think.
Yeah.
But grouse are kind of a pain in the ass to clean because they're so small. There's a way where it's kind of gross. I forget
ton of
exactly, but
pheasants on their farm.
you can stand on their wings and you cut their belly and you reach in and you can actually like pull the whole breast out. It's kind of gruesome, but it's a very easy way to clean
I've
grouse.
seen some big grouse.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, their breasts are
I hear
tiny.
they're better than pheasants, but I don't know. People online.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think-
What is this? Nobody knows what the fuck this is. I said the F word.
That's okay. It's past the first 15 minutes.
Okay.
You can
Is
say
it 15 minutes or seconds?
that. I don't know. You told me all this.
I just heard it from another podcast. That was way better than this one.
Huh.
I think it's a cock. Rooster. Sorry, rooster.
You
With
can call it
bird
a cock.
flu.
It is a cock.
It has bird flu though, and you can tell by the plumage.
Oh.
Are you ready for the next pandemic, everybody?
I'm ready for the next question.
Yeah, next question.
Stop talking about cocks.
Roosters. So let's wrap it up. Should we wrap it up?
Sure, you got a closing
Yeah,
question?
I think we got some enchiladas ready. So,
What's the closing question?
do you think it is possible to save Montana?
I would argue that I don't think Montana's necessarily need a saving yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I think Montana will always be, if you think about it relative to other places, relative to even like a Colorado, or relative to
Colorado's far gone. It's California part 2, bud.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you still go to Colorado now,
Yeah.
and then you go to California, you're going to get to California and be like, holy shit.
Yeah. There's
Colorado
people on the
is
streets, man.
still Wild West. So I think you have the same
Yeah.
thing. Everything is evolving, right? So is this...
So don't go on the West Coast or the East Coast, but find your way into the middle. The middle is so good. It's so
still,
nice.
even though Montana is not what it was 35 years ago.
It's expensive, and we
still
live
going
here.
to-
It's gonna be expensive. Just time the market, figure it out.
Is saving Montana making sure it stays cheap? Is that what you're getting at?
No, it makes it accessible. Like want to access information. You want to know if your food's good. I feel like making it accessible to good people, not necessarily all people, but good people. And that's impossible. I get that, but making it accessible is important.
I think Montana's still accessible.
It is freaking expensive for these.
Yeah, but we live in a very small corner of that state.
Yeah, that's true.
If you want to live in like rural Montana, you can go buy a big old ranch if you want for a probably good price right
It's
now.
a couple million now, man. It used to be a couple 100,000. It's a couple million now.
I mean, but that's real estate everywhere. It's desirability.
Right now, yes.
Right, it's desirability.
Right now.
Montana is becoming more desirable, I think, because people's perspectives on life have changed in the last couple of years because of the panty.
Yeah,
the panties. The panties.
they've fallen off.
The panties have fallen off.
They fell.
So, but it's become more desirable because people can live and work here now. Whereas before, if you wanted to live out here, you had to be a rancher, and it's like, well, I'm a city slicker. You know, it's like, well, if you
It's not a bad
if you work on a
trade to
if
know.
you work on a laptop, it's hard to go live in. It was hard to go live and work in rural
Yeah, there's
Montana.
Wi-Fi
Now
everywhere
that's
now.
changed.
Yep.
So it's going to be a shift. So
It's going to shift and then it's going to even out.
correct.
Yeah.
I don't think Montana has to be saved yet. I still think it's an amazing place. Still
All
the
right.
Wild West.
We can agree to disagree, and that's the point of this.
So do you wait? Hold on before we shut it
I
down.
think we need to save it. I feel like it's dying a little bit. It's changing, not dying, changing.
How so?
I feel like it's going into direction of the whole old concept of it's a rich person playground.
Wow.
I feel like
You could call Costner about that and tell him to stop making his TV show.
fucking Costner. Do we even like the guy?
Waterworld, come on.
I haven't even seen that one, man. I want to.
You've never seen Waterworld?
I haven't seen Waterworld. We're gonna go watch Waterworld and have some enchiladas. Sound good?
Pleasure to be here, Dan.
Thanks for having me. You? What's your name?
Thanks for having you.
Ricky, no last name. This has been Mountain Man Dan Live. Can we get a outro song? All right, outro song was Badumch. All right, let's cut it. Thanks. Subscribe, like. I don't care. Do what you want.
How
We'll fix it all.
Fix it all in post.
How long was that?